the sound? No. Depois, para falar, acho que podemos tirar. Sim, para falar. Okay. The red nose. Because of the mask. Okay, Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you very much for joining this session organized by Portugal Space, the Portuguese Space Agency. So this session will be focused on Earth observation, and we will start with the future of the Earth observation in Portugal. Our climate detectives, so they participated, they are not even secondary school, so they are in 5th and 6th grade or 7th grade now, and they participated in an ESA E0 project called the Climate Detectives, and we will start this session by having their testimony, what they learned, and what was that experience, and how they will be the future of Earth observation in Portugal. Quando quiserem, o Afonso, é Afonso e a Ana? E a Diana vão-nos... a Leandra. Os nossos detetives do clima vão-nos falar sobre a sua experiência do projeto EZ0 que tiveram na sua escola. Obrigada.
Olá. O nosso projeto foi entender de que forma as alterações climáticas afetavam uma lagoa que ficava perto da nossa escola, que era a Lagoa do Almargem, e eu acho que foi uma experiência muito única, porque eu nunca tinha participado de um projeto assim, e a professora Patrícia deu a oportunidade, e eu acho que foi muito bom.
Pronto. O que nós fizemos foi, vimos imagens de satélite. Para nós validarmos essas imagens, fomos ao local retirar amostras de terra e água. Depois, para além disso, nós tiramos fotos à fauna, à flora, para compararmos com dados meteorológicos antigos. Eu aprendi a perceber melhor e interpretar imagens de satélite. Também levei mais a sério a questão da reciclagem e acho que foi muito bom e gostava de participar melhor e em mais projetos desta organização.
Muito interessante, e imagina que a professora Wanda Brotas vai recrutar um de vocês para a equipa um dia mais tarde, talvez, para a monitorização da lagoa. Vocês já notaram alguns efeitos climáticos na vossa lagoa, perto da vossa escola?
Principalmente no verão, porque não chove tanto e o clima está mais quente, a lagoa seca e fica com algumas vegetações vermelhas. E também, quando a lagoa está cheia, vivem alguns animais lá, então no verão eles acabam por perder o seu habitat.
E conseguiram verificar essas alterações através das imagens de satélite também?
Sim, e também fomos à lagoa verificar.
Ok. Ótimo. Não sei se querem deixar alguma mensagem para colegas da vossa idade sobre o projeto, se gostaram, recomendam à escola?
Sim, recomendo muito. Acho que deviam todos participar neste projeto, porque acho que é interessante para todas as crianças, até mesmo os mais pequeninos, para perceberem melhor as alterações climáticas.
Ok, muito obrigada. Obrigada à Ciência Viva por este projeto e por dinamizar o conhecimento da observação da Terra desde tenra idade. E deixamos o repto para quem nos está a assistir das escolas, que podem dirigir-se à Ciência Viva e tentar entrar nestes projetos também. Obrigada, Afonso.
Obrigada.
So I will change to English now, because we have some participants from France as our panel, and maybe I can share already my presentation. Yeah. So this was the topic that we proposed for the panel: Digital Planet and Earth Observation, Challenges and Cooperations between Portugal and France. And so we built this panel to showcase a little bit what are projects being developed in Portugal, and highlighting cooperations with France in the same thematics. Also, we want to reinforce that these developments are targeting specific sectors, specific economic sectors, very much in line to the topic of this Ciência 2021 year, that is Ciência que faz o amanhã e transforma a economia. So the science that builds the tomorrow and transforms the economy. I will just do a brief introduction to provide context for this session, and then I will give the floor to Nuno Catarino from Demos that will moderate the panel. So Earth observation or satellite Earth observation, we know that we can monitor the Earth with different sensors, looking at the Earth with different lenses, different glasses, so we can know or monitor our oceans, our land, and have very different perspectives. This can be very interesting just for a scientific point of view to understand our ecosystems, but more than that, we want that Earth observation can also push economy and can be a benefit for all. Every citizen can benefit from the use of Earth observation. So how can we do that? How can space really benefit other sectors, other industrial sectors? So we hope that today we can address a little bit of this. And at European level, what we have is the Copernicus program. So it's the largest Earth observation program in the world, Copernicus, and what it does, it just not monitors the Earth, so with the sentinels and the satellites orbiting the Earth, but it tries to translate that data into real information and services that people can use. And those end users can be very different, but you have 6 different services from climate, marine, atmosphere, land, security, or emergency, and those really serve the different sectors. So what is the experience of the Copernicus program? It has really high impact on economy, and it is estimated that until 2035, we can have benefits up to 131 billion for the European citizens. This means that the program can get a return 20 times higher than its real cost. So what we see is a higher increase in economic returns for end users. And what is very interesting is that 80% of those benefits are not for the space sector, are for the various sectors that use Earth observation. So you have agriculture, forestry, urban management, ocean, atmosphere, air quality. And so for the at national level, in the national strategy, Earth observation is a central part of the strategy, and it really mentions that we should use Earth observation and related techniques to develop new methods and data science for the benefit of society. This has been translated in a few programmatic challenges, and we have them, I have them there in the slide, but one that is more related to this session today is the digital planet, which basically is how can you use the satellite data for the different sectors. Usually satellite data is very good, but it's not enough. Sometimes it needs to be combined with in situ data, with data processing, exquisite techniques of artificial intelligence, or some modeling also. So the digital planet would be a platform that could integrate all these and to provide some real services to different sectors. This, of course, has some challenges, and we have some priorities. I will just name a few and then pass the floor to the speakers. So we need to engage with the users, so we need to make sure that users know that Earth observation exists, is a tool, and they can use it, and what benefit they can have with that, so they can uptake that data in their work and their services. Currently, it's being discussed, the user uptake strategy for Copernicus, and that is a very important task or topic. Currently, and the French, actually the French presidency in 2022 is really willing to push this topic further. But we don't want to be just users or end users, we want to be also providers, because the added value is in the service, no? So we don't want just to be people that use the data, we want also to add value to that data and sell the services. So what can we do? How can we bring research and industry to create that added value and create innovative products and services? How can we not just use Copernicus services, but also contribute to the Copernicus services? Then we can also use Copernicus data policy, free, full and open data policy, to promote innovation. So we have the data already available. How can we use that data to create innovative products? So we have also participated this year in the Copernicus Master, and I leave there the links that you can use to participate. If you're Portuguese, if you're French, if you are a mixed team, you have an innovative idea using Copernicus either for the Atlantic or for the Azores, you can apply your idea here. And then, last but not least, promote and increase international cooperation, and this is a bit an example of what we are doing here, trying to bring different actors together. We have done also the Europe-Africa Earth Observation Eye-Level Forum a couple of weeks ago. We participate in the Framework Partnership Agreement of Copernicus User Uptake, where we have several actions with French companies also, French partners, for activities in Africa and the maritime sector, actually. We are participating here in the Ciência 2021, and we also have participation in the Sessão 2022, where we are trying also to develop some summer schools or projects regarding Earth observation with French companies. So this was my short introduction. I will pass the floor now to our moderator, Nuno. Thank you very much for accepting to moderate this session, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. So as Carolina said, we'll have a session now, or actually two sessions on Earth observation, and the focus is on the collaboration between Portugal and France, and how can Earth observation address major environmental and societal issues. We have two sessions, one on marine topics with 4 speakers, and then we'll have another session following that on land Earth observation applications and collaborations. So as I said, the focus will be on projects that are ongoing, especially transborder projects between Portugal and France, and what will be the future of these activities and the collaboration activities between these two countries. We will start with the marine panel. So we start with Wanda Brotas. So Wanda is a researcher from the Faculty of Science of the University of Lisbon, and she is a researcher at MARE, Marine Environmental Sciences lab. And she's been working in oceanography and marine biology for quite some time. She did a PhD in ocean sciences and is co-coordinator of several PhD theses and master theses, and has had several positions at the university. I won't go over them, but she did quite a long, has quite an extensive work in this area and is very well known. So, Wanda.
Thank you, Nuno. Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you, Portugal Space, for inviting me to this talk. So I'll talk about our research with the French researchers, and give some screenshots of our ongoing projects, and then I'll be happy to discuss later, and also focus on the end users and the targets of this research. So my title is From Mudflats to Satellites, and while I was preparing this, I was thinking this is really the story of my life, of my career, because I started in Marseille a long time ago, in '85, with a researcher in Marseille studying microphytobenthos, and I brought this area of research to Portugal, where I was absolutely pioneer. And then and microphytobenthos are the algae on the intertidal flats. And then also from Marseille, I imported HPLC quantification of photosynthetic pigments, and then we went on to phytoplankton, estuarine, ocean, and till the Tagus Esso to the Antarctica, and then to remote sensing. And then, obviously, because remote sensing or chlorophyll A is the only living parameter that can be seen from space. So, regarding microphytobenths, I'm showing this paper, which was a collaboration with Laurent Barrier, and he'll talk later also about this. So we went on with this collaboration with the University of Nantes, sometimes with projects, but most of the time without projects, just because we have common interests. So this is the applying Earth observation to the mudflat and quantifying the microphytobenths in the Tagus estuary. But we have also other partners and other projects that I would like to speak. And when we think about remote sensing, what we are interested in is applications, and what we are interested in mostly is the phytoplankton concentration and also the suspended matter. But the key thing in remote sensing is atmospheric correction, because 85% of the signal coming from the surface of the sea to the satellite is absorbed by the atmosphere. So a correct atmospheric correction is key. And we have a partner in France with these IGOs. I think they are a private company, and they are partners in these two projects that I'm briefly talking now. So one is the Ocean Color Climate Change Initiative, and is a project which aims to produce a calibrated time series of all the satellites since CEWIFS in 1997 till now. And we, Faculty of Sciences, we are responsible for the in situ database, and IGOs is responsible for the atmospheric correction. And one thing which we are now aiming at is obviously to get a better temporal and spatial resolution. This is an example of the difference between pixels of 4 kilometers and 1 kilometer resolution. These products then feed another project, which is the IFADO project, Innovation in the Framework of the Atlantic Deep Ocean. And it is, this project is in order to implement MSFD, so Marine Strategy Framework Directive in Europe. And we have several partners. This is an Interact project. And we have several French partners like Novelties, Polmer, and Agence Française pour la Biodiversité, which is an associated partner. So that's another project ongoing with collaboration. And the target users of this type of projects are obviously the international modeling community, because they need this data for climate studies, all the governments, because they need to implement Marine Strategy Framework Directive. And then we have other applications from aquaculture, and I'm just giving you here two examples of ongoing projects of us, which aim at looking at the biogeochemical conditions of site selection of offshore aquaculture units, or just to control the water quality. And we do that as well by, for example, establishing the climatologies with Earth observation. Now, as I said, estuaries, but our love for estuaries still goes on. So another project is this one, the CETO project, which is the Copernicus project. It's Copernicus Evolution Research for Transitional Water Observation, CERTO. And this project aims at developing products for the transitional waters, which are very complex optical water types. And there are six sites in Europe, and Tagus is one of the study sites. And I want to go back. Just got stuck maybe. Okay, and Tagus Estuary, we have a long time series project in Tagus Estuary, as you can see by that figure, so more than 20 years now. Well, there's several end users that are into Tagus. This is just a list, and we are actually dialoguing with them. Another very interesting product from the estuaries is the TSM, or Total Suspended Matter. This is an example for the Tagus estuary, where you can see the plume of the river to adjacent water. So this is an indicator of the plume of the river, and other issues can be studied. And now, more recently, there's this paper of Julius et al. In remote sensing, and she did this map of suspended particle matter in the southwest with Sentinel-2. So now you're using Sentinel-2 because it's free, and it has a temporal resolution in Portugal every 5 days. It was developed for land, but you can see that now some uses can be, you can use it in sea and estuaries as well, coastal areas as well. So I was told to be quick, so I'm quick. So and I'm just showing, this is my French supervisor, Marie Plante-Cuny, 95, and then all the networks and projects. I can't explain here everything, but there's a long network, and from now the last project, which has been Zoom, and I'm happy to clarify anything or to discuss further. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. We'll have the questions in the end. Yes. So there'll be. Thank you for seeing to the time. Very good. We have 8-minute sessions, and at the end we'll have at the end of each marine and land session we'll have 15 minutes for discussion and questions. I believe there's also the participation of people online, which can through Zoom, which can send their questions also to Carolina. So now we have Laurent Barrier from the University of Nantes. He's a professor, full professor at the University of Nantes, and works in remote sensing for aquaculture and ocean biology as well. And as Wanda said, so they've had collaborations in the past together. So he's also coordinating the International Masters in Aquaculture, Environment and Society with the University of Heraklion in Greece and Highlands University in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. So, Laurent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for inviting me this afternoon. It's a great opportunity to share what we are doing in University of Nantes, and I will, as Wanda did, show a little bit of our past collaboration and future project. So, my talk is about satellite-assisted monitoring of water quality and biodiversity. And I will start directly by example of what we are doing about water quality. So we have a project since 5 years funded by the French Agency of Biodiversity for the Water Framework Directive. And they asked us to develop a new bioindicator to assess the ecological status of transitional waters. So transitional waters, basically, they are estuaries, I would say. So why is that? Because you cannot apply the existing bioindicators, namely phytoplankton, when the water is very turbid. As Wanda has shown, when you have a lot of suspended particulate matter concentration, it doesn't work. So we investigated whether we could use microphytobenthos as a new bioindicator. And there are unicellular benthic microalgae and cyanobacteria forming biofilm at low tide. So we have a dual approach. The first one on the left is the classical one, and we have a collaboration with scientists from MAR, and in particular with a taxonomist. What you see on the photographs are benthic diatoms seen under the microscope. They are less than 100 microns, but on the right, which is an image of the Loire estuary, you can see that they form biofilms in red that can be several hectares at low tide. And this map was done with Sentinel-2. And this year we published a paper in the journal Ecological Indicators entitled Using Sentinel-2 Imagery to Develop Microphytobentho-Based Water Quality Indices in Estuaries, where we apply machine learning methods to 26 estuaries, in fact all the French estuaries, 42, and to show that there was a potential for assessing water quality using satellite imagery. We did that also in another project called COST-OPS, a European project, with another marine plant, seagrass, which is a water framework directive indicator because it's very sensitive to anthropogenic pressures and to other pressures. On the image, what you can see is this plant at low tide, okay? So it forms meadows. And so we mapped the seagrass percent cover using Sentinel-2. On the left bottom map, you see the main meadow during the maximum development of these plants, which is summer in 2018. Then you see the same in 2019. And what we did, we used those information, the spatial extent, the density, to assess the ecological status based on Earth observation. Ecological status in the CENSU, the Water Framework Directive, which is building up an ecological quality ratio, which is the graph. So what it is, it's based on 3 metrics, seagrass surface, seagrass density, and diversity. And the first 2 metrics, they were obtained using Earth observation. And combining the 2, you get this ecological quality ratio, which is translated into an ecological status from high, the best status of your water body, to bad, which is the worst status of your water body. And we took advantage of a multi-mission satellite time series combining SPOT, Landsat, and Sentinel-2 to produce something which is uniquely provided by remote sensing, thanks to our satellite archives. So the time series from 1984 to 2020, and you see that you clearly see the increasing evolution of the ecological status, and now, fortunately for this area, it has a good status. Unfortunately, Earth observation are not recognized right now by the Water Framework Directive as a method, an official method. And this is why with colleagues from European project called EOMORES, which was more about inland waters, we were involved in COSTOPS. We wrote a white paper entitled Satellite Assisted Monitoring of Water Quality to support the implementation of the directive. And in this white paper published 2 years ago, basically we did strong recommendation, which is to recognize that satellite observation could be a valid method and a validated method in the context of the revision of the directive. And then to reference the use of satellite-based Earth observation metrics in the reporting guidance of the revised directive. So we did that within this project, COSTOP, which COSTOP stands for Commercial Service Platform for User-Relevant Coastal Monitoring Services based on Earth observation, and is clearly a downstream application project. And we have a strong engagement with users, and we somehow used standard product, but we developed higher level product that have been reported in the Horizon Result platform. I'm not going to list all the products, but it's mixing aquaculture and water quality. So the first one is mussel culture potential mapping using Earth observation. Then you have coastal turbidity, phytoplankton size class, primary production, intertidal seagrass, harmful algal bloom, and sediment plume morphology. By the way, we had our review meeting last week. And in this review meeting, we emphasized a lot the engagement with users. And we had, in this meeting, in this project, strong feedback by 13 active COSTOP users. And the interesting point is that we started at the very beginning of the project to ask them their requirements. Then they signed a service level agreement, and we had workshops. So on the top right, you see our colleagues from Vigo, with representative of fishermen. They develop a hub bioindicator. On the bottom right, colleagues from the Dutch University HZ, working with mussel producer. And on the bottom left, that's one of our users for the French case study from a small environmental association who at the end of the project uptook the project, and by uptaken the project, I mean they bought the product. So just to finish and to go from water quality to monitoring coastal biodiversity, last week you also just got this project led by Plymouth Marine Laboratory. The project is called Biodiversity of the Coastal Ocean, Monitoring with Earth Observation. So it's led by PML with IGEOS, as Vanda said, DLR, and us. And what is it about? It's about trying to use Earth observation to map the essential biodiversity variable. So essential biodiversity variable are the analog of the essential climate variable. And I took this paper published by a Portuguese scientist from Lisbon in the Policy Forum of Science, where it's written to produce a global system of harmonized observation to inform scientists and policymakers. So what is it exactly, those essential biodiversity variables that can be retrieved from remote sensing? So you have different classes, like genetic composition, species population, species trait, community composition, ecosystem structure. If you take one class, genetic composition, you have population genetic diversity, species population distribution, abundance, and so on. And what we are going to do in this project is try to apply this to the intertidal communities and the biodiversity of seagrass, macroalgae, microphytobenthos, oyster reef. So if I just take the case of microphytobenthos, you see that very likely we won't get diversity information from remote sensing. But we might get distribution, abundance, pigments, if we have a high spectral resolution, and maybe very likely fragmentation and primary production estimates. And just to show you not my final slide, but almost, that's the intertidal sites we propose for this project. So we had the French sites as training site, but we had negotiation with ESA. They asked us to add a new site. And that's why you see Lisbon, because we've decided to add Lisbon and the Tagus estuary as a new site for the training site. And for the validation site, we proposed the German Wadden Sea, the Mont Saint-Michel Bay, and Aveiro estuary for its seagrass. So I think that's, by doing this, of course, it was coinciding perfectly with this meeting, and to say that, yeah, we have to do something together within this project. So that's my last slide, and I just want to say that in this project we would like to use drone. We are increasingly using drones, especially drones with a sensor that are mimicking the spectral band of the satellite Sentinel-2 and Landsat, and we really hope to have the opportunity maybe to fly one of our drones, this one, over the Tagus estuary for this European project. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Laurent. So we now move to another pair of collaborations. So this one starts with André Oliveira from the CoLab Plus Atlantic. André is an aerospace engineer. He will speak remotely. I believe he's in Porto at the moment. So he's an aerospace engineering with quite an extensive experience in industry, and is the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer of the CoLab Plus Atlantic. The CoLab Plus Atlantic is let's say, membership collaborative lab between academia, industry, and state labs, which promotes the use of Atlantic-based technologies for the Atlantic monitoring. So technologies for the Atlantic monitoring, and he has a very strong emphasis in Earth observation as well. André, I believe is online.
Yes, can you hear me?
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Noon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay, and I'm assuming that you can see my slides. I will do a joint presentation with Pierre Bahure from Mercator Ocean, and we'll be speaking together about the digital planet and Earth observation, and in particular, a collaboration that we've been running for the last couple of months for an ESA project, which is a digital twin ocean precursor. We'll also speak a little bit about the Copernicus Marine Service and what this service, the opportunities that the Copernicus Marine Service makes available, in particular to Portugal and Portuguese researchers. And we'll conclude with our shared vision for what could be a digital twin ocean in the coming years. So as I mentioned, we are part of a digital twin ocean precursor project that is being funded by ESA. This is a one-year contract that involves 7 entities. It actually involves more countries than just Portugal and France, but it is a project that is led by Ifremer in France and involves Mercator Ocean, Thales Alenia Space, CLS, all from France, the CoLab Plus Atlantic from Portugal, as well as NERSC from Norway and Lobelia from Spain. So we have a very strong French participation, both from the industry side as well as from the research. And this project aims at prototyping and demonstrating potential instances of a digital twin Earth, in our case focused on the ocean. Our project deals with 2 use cases which could be precursor services for a digital twin ocean. One is Arctic sea ice breakup, which is led by NERSC in Norway, and another use case is marine heat waves in the Mediterranean, which is led by CLS. And basically our approach here is to introduce new approaches for computing uncertainty in the environment in a controlled fashion. And we aim to do this by using ensembles of simulations, which are informed by spatial correlations determined from very high resolution and high resolution observations. And basically the digital twin ocean systematically compares its predictions of how the environment, how the ocean, the sea will evolve, or how the sea ice will evolve, or the marine heat waves or other phenomena. It systematically compares these predictions and results with all of the available high-resolution data. We're using essentially the same approach in both use cases. So we do dynamic interpolation to create space-time gridded fields of variables, and then we run those through AI models, which we expect to learn the dynamic aspects of the numerical simulations. Based on those, we prepared data cubes and decompose the data to identify differential equations that capture the main modes of the phenomena that we're observing. And then we do retrospective forecasting, so hindcasting, and compare those to historic time series that we have. And then we iterate this in order to help ensure that the full integration is done properly. Our project builds on numerical capabilities that have been developed over time, in particular through CMEMS, which Pierre will talk about later on. And what we've seen so far, what is obvious, is that there are too many complex interactions between ocean phenomena, atmospheric phenomena, which make it extremely difficult to create a single numerical model that accounts for all of these interactions. And another thing that we've seen is that small or local scale events can and usually impact large and global scale. And so any misrepresentation at the small scale can lead to misrepresentations at the larger scale. I'll just give you a brief overview of some of the results that we've obtained so far, and I'll focus on the marine heatwave scenario that is being led by CLS in France. And what they've done is to evaluate the skill of machine learning techniques to reproduce retrospective marine heatwave events in the Mediterranean at 2 different time scales. And so essentially what is done is to reconstruct sea surface temperature variability in the Western Mediterranean Sea from some preconditioning factors which account for both atmospheric and oceanic drivers. And then we try to forecast these events at different time scales. So 1 day, 5 days, 10 days, and 20 days. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, the red blobs on the right-hand side indicate worse predictions, which is kind of expected. So we're able to predict quite well at 1 day, and the further we move in the future, the worse the prediction gets. What we've managed to show so far is that the artificial intelligence algorithms are able to learn without overfitting, and that we've carried this experience for the medium scale using 7 years of sea surface temperature data. What we're currently doing is running large-scale training on all of the data, so that means the entire area of the Mediterranean as well as historical data. And we're benchmarking against other architectures because we're using a 2D convolutional neural network. And we're also trying to run model experiments versus the baseline model. So I'll now give the word to Pierre. I hope you can hear him, and he will talk a little bit about the Copernicus Marine Service.
Very much, André. So Pierre Bahure is the director of Mercator Ocean. Mercator Ocean is a company, but somewhat particular in the sense that they are responsible for the Copernicus Marine Environmental Service from European Union, and Pierre will be the other dimension of the other aspects of the talk that André started on, work on the digital ocean twin, which is a precursor project that they have together. Pierre. Pierre,
can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Okay, great. So thank you, Nuno. Thank you, André. I just want to illustrate what we have been doing with Copernicus for a very simple reason. Is just to combine at the end the innovative approach that has been presented by André with this operational momentum that has been prepared by the European Commission with Copernicus, just to let you know how we want to work between France and Portugal for this super description of a digital ocean for developing services. So Copernicus is the space program of the EU and the European Space Agency. And there is a marine stream, which is the Copernicus Marine Service. Sometimes we call it CMEMS. And it has been designed 10 years ago, and we have started operations after 5 years of pilot phase in 2015. So the thing is very simple. We want to describe the ocean with the different social marine variables, the blue, the physics, the white, the ice, and the green variables that are the biochemistry. And we want to propose a description of the ocean in the past, in the real time, today, and with forecast. And for this, we combine all the sources of information that we have from satellite observations, in situ observations, and models. And with a clear global ocean coverage and a clear focus on the European regions for the different seas that are surrounding Europe. It is really an important service for and program and project for our community. You see the budget for the 7 years. So Mercator Ocean has been entrusted by the European Commission to implement this, and we have started to work with the community. And we are really now in the operational phase where we maintain a state-of-the-art this digital description of the ocean, multivariable, consistent in space and time. In the next slide, André, you have the philosophy or the way we work at Mercator, which is first to develop a very highly distributed service chain. It means that we are working with the experts where they are in Europe. This is the left part of the screen. We have 300 contractors, because our job for the European Commission is really to open procurement and implement the service through this open procurement. So we have producers everywhere. We are collecting the data. We are running quality checks, then developing products to build what I was presenting before, which is these digital descriptions. This is used on all continents today. So there is a super uptake, a very great response from the users. So 300,000 users, and 30,000 of them are subscribers there. We have a regular systematic dialogue with them. And the good news is that with this, there is an impact on a wide range of application sectors, from polar environment to education, going through marine operations, coastal, etc. So keep in mind that in implementing this kind of service, we have 3 types of stakeholders. The first are the producers that are developing all the data, running the models, assimilating the data to help us to provide these products. The second one are the service providers that are they are our users, and they are adding value to meet the requirements of the end users. and they are very important to really stimulate this uptake towards the market, the end users, including the policymakers. And the third category are the experts that are bringing innovation in this for science, for service components, and that are working with us at Mercator to really stimulate this activity. And on the next slide, you will see the situation, how Portugal is really involved in this. So no need to remind you that Portugal is one of the main country for all the marine and maritime activities. So France and Portugal are really brothers in arms for this. And you have on the right part the expert entities that are bringing innovation, that are they are partners of Mercator to improve the scientific part, the modeling, data simulation, or the service side, and also developing examples of good or best practices for the service. So this is typically IPMA. We work a lot with IPMA, with Hydromode, with Collab, of course. And so these are the experts. You see also that we have 700 Portuguese subscribers. So these are the service providers that are using our data to really reach the end users. So it's not too bad because it's, okay, 3% of the number of subscribers, but it's around 4% of the European subscribers. And so the density of Copernicus Marine users in Portugal is better than the mean value in Europe. Still, this is not I think this is not enough, so we need to stimulate the uptake. And also, we don't have any producers in Portugal. It means that the data, typically in the Atlantic, are not prepared by Portuguese experts. So I think this is something that we need to develop more in Copernicus too. And in the next slide, you see what is the plan for the next 7 years. So Mercator, we will be interested. I will sign the contract with the Commission in a few days, hopefully. So we have 7 years ahead of us. We will set up and improve the Copernicus Marine Service, which is confirmed as a top priority for the European Commission. We will use the satellite data, we will use the in-situ data, we will run models, we will stimulate the uptake, and the priorities are on the screen. And for each of them, I believe that Portuguese stakeholders can really play a role. So part one, developing uptake. For policymakers, let's talk about the UN Decade for Ocean Science, for instance, or for the marine strategy, or this kind of policies. Two, to stimulate the markets, and this is a place where typically Collab is Plus Atlantic is very, very good. And also to really develop better product on the coastal, on the Arctic, and marine biology that are our priorities. Then when we look at the core activities of producing the data, we know that we need to be better for the blue ocean, the white ocean, the green ocean, and to develop further the marine science for this, and also the product that are prepared by the service component. We need better accuracy, higher resolution, longer reanalysis period, and we need to integrate better all the digital approaches to disseminate the data. So this is a place where really Portugal can play a role with France and other countries, of course, in Europe, to improve the core activity of a core service with the core production and service component. And in the upstream as well, we will use new satellite observations. We will use new in-situ observations. So we need oceanographers, but also satellite space experts to better integrate these parts. So we will open procurement, ITTs, to get some experts to have some operational producers. So this is what we will do with Copernicus. But with André, we work a lot to define something which is a bit more wide and maybe a bit more effective to combine all the assets. And on the next slide, you have something which explains this in short, which is this digital twin ocean. So André explained that we are involved in the preparation of precursors for the European Space Agency. But we have also designed together something which is more wide. So what Mercator Ocean brings into this is the operational capacity with the huge Copernicus system, the service system, the service, the platform, and we are bringing this our know-how about the stimulating this the value chain from the upstream data, the core production, the data assimilation, modeling the products, and then reaching the end market. And I'm very, very, very happy to find with Plus Atlantic a Portuguese platform where we can also connect with industry, with the downstream part, and bring innovation into this system, because we need to play now a strategy which is really at this level of a digital twin. But I pass you the floor, André, to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. André, under 45 seconds. Can you wrap up?
Surizan. Thank you, Pierre. Yes, as Pierre was saying, our vision for a digital twin ocean basically comprises a framework that connects all of the data and operational services available right now, in particular the Copernicus Marine Service, as well as others like EMODNet or the European research infrastructures, and then has an engine that generates state-of-the-art and fit-for-purpose simulation of the ocean environment from global to local scales that builds upon CMEMS, but also combines with economic and social variables, and then allows users to run simulations, what-if simulations. So what would happen if I see a shift, for example, in sea surface temperature 10 degrees up in the next 20 years. And this should be done through an interactive layer. And what we believe is that it'll be very, very important to ensure that the scientific cases or that the data that we have and the models that we run are scientifically sound, so that we can generate both environmental data as well as socioeconomic data impacted by the environmental data that can be used by decision makers, be they private or institutional, in their daily lives, as well as by regular citizens. And so I think this was more or less what we wanted to share with the audience today, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, André. So that was a very interesting cooperative talks on digital ocean twins and the collaboration between these two institutions with several others. So we now have 15 minutes for questions and discussion. Colleen, I don't know if we have online questions, or shall we start with online topics? Okay, so we start with a few topics that I've noted down. I'll ask first Wanda and Laurent, in particular, regarding the collaboration, what they see as strong points of Europe-France collaboration, and what they have in the pipeline for future collaborations. Any of you start?
Research area, which is estuaries, with applications estuaries, so like aquaculture. So looking much into what happens and water quality indexes and so on. So looking in situ, but also then upgrading and having a vision from Earth observation, which obviously gives another scope. So I think that's where we meet. And the collaborations, I mean, they just appear sometimes, or not. Sometimes they don't appear. I don't know if what.
I agree with Wanda. There is something we didn't speak about, was aquaculture. And in the two last EU program we were involved, aquaculture were a strong. There were strong players, and clearly there is a food market there. And either from the project I show Costops, or I was involved in a previous one called Tapas, and clearly I think there is a market, I think, for the aquaculture sector. And I know that in Portugal you're working on this, In France, we have this capacity. We can export also the methods elsewhere. We have a project right now in our lab with Indonesia for offshore aquaculture of macroalgae. So I think that's one of the topics we haven't developed together, but I'm sure that there is something to do. And otherwise, as Wanda said, in estuary, we have a common expertise, and yeah, I think we might do something. And then we have to find the good call and maybe share a postdoc or a PhD. That would be a good start.
Great. Thank you. I see you have a few things in the pipeline, so at least a few topics. Pierre, André, I don't know if you want to say something about what kind of advantages or disadvantages do you see in Portugal-France collaboration? Do you see any strategic positioning there, or is it more of an institutional collaboration approach?
Well, my first idea was to invite Portugal to improve what we do in the Atlantic, because it's obvious that this is the natural garden of Portugal. But frankly, having worked with André and his team and colleagues in the Azores and IPMA, etc., well, I have to inverse the question. I mean, what we need is to be better in the coastal, to be better in biology, to be better connected with industry, and also to be better at the international level, to reinforce the European voice at the international level, both for developing economy, which is the blue economy, and also for policy and the EU voice in the protection of the ocean. And in all these sectors that are the coastal, the route towards biodiversity, I believe that Portugal has really great assets. Industry, blue economy, and connection with policies is also something where I see that we can work together. And what we did with André is I see that combining the way we think in France and how you think in Portugal, bringing innovation is very, very, very interesting. So I hope that we will be able to develop this in the future.
Thank you, Pierre. André?
I think Pierre has mentioned almost everything. I think this is a huge, a very, very good opportunity for Portugal to cooperate with France. And in particular, we know that France has a very strong role in the operational services of the Copernicus Marine Service, and it doesn't make sense for us not to take advantage and connect and build these bridges with our French colleagues, both in terms of user uptake, as Pierre was mentioning earlier, as well as in the research, like Wanda showed before, and as co-producers in CMEMS.
Okay, thank you very much. So I see we have here two different approaches to collaboration. One more, let's say, geostrategic, and the other one more directly in terms of research commonality. So that's very good and shows different aspects of this collaboration. So for the second topic, it's quite a follow-up of this first one, which is how do you go from R&D, from innovation development to commercial services? So to what extent does Earth observation-based technology already provides a clear added value for industry, for public authorities, which can translate into a commercial service? And what are you doing in this respect? I'll start with you, André. Start with the last one.
Thanks. I think there will always be, and it will always be necessary to have public, open EU data. It will always have a role. And I think that the connection to the commercial services comes with the creation of complex intelligence from multiple data sources. And here, the role of taking the data and then building intelligence on top of that data by using biogeochemical models, physical models, applying AI whenever relevant to those models. And here is an important point, I think, to look at smart data. We talk a lot about big data and having large amounts of data, but we also should choose carefully which data we use. I think this is extremely important. And one thing that we've seen in our collaboration is that we are starting to look at complex and even more complex interactions. The atmosphere, ocean, ocean surface, water column interactions are all very complex. And it's very hard to have one single entity that knows, that dominates all of these interactions. And so to aggregate and combine tools and services from the different entities into more complex, and for multiple players into more complex services, I think that's where you can create commercial value for a private or an institutional player, something that they will be willing to look at and say, you know, I would pay for that. So I think that's the way to go.
Thank you. Pierre, just to add a further ingredient is what's your view on the public versus commercial model of commercialization, for example, in the atmosphere and meteorology service? It's completely dominated by public institutions. If you go to the telecommunications, it's completely dominated by commercial sector. So how do you see the Earth observation for the ocean in this landscape as well?
We need to distinguish the production of the information where everyone is welcome, and when, frankly, for the ocean, this is very innovative because the stakeholders, we are coming from private sector, from public sectors. I mean, this is the skills and the know-how which is the real criteria. So I love this idea of oceanography where the diversity is really strong. And then when the thing is that we need to define very clearly what is the ocean as a public good and where we provide this. And so this is the goal of this digital twin or Copernicus or whatever the name. And then starts the last part where you are adding value for your users. And it could be for a commercial user. It could be to save lives. It could be for coast guards, public activity. But then you have to select who are the right players to do this last mile. And I like working with private company if this is about commercial. I like working with public institutions if this is for running environmental. So I think this is very clear as soon as you have well defined. I just want to echo something that has been said by André, which is that now that we are playing with thousands of users, we must protect the philosophy that has been presented by Laurent a few minutes ago, which is that we have this dialogue with the users to understand what exactly is the need so that we can adapt the service. And it's very complicated where you have thousands of users. So we are working through cluster organizations, cluster association, professional clusters, when you can find the skills. You're working with the marine energy cluster professional associations, so that you can have someone being the intermediate between you and the end users and adapt the service. So it's very important to identify the different areas that you want to reach. Marine energy could be one, navigation could be another one, and find who to talk to really optimize this connection. But the user feedback, the loop is very, very important. And this is what we are trying to build at the level of this European service, to identify these cluster associations. And I have already said that Plus Atlantic is a good example, but we need to develop further these things. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pierre. Laurent, in the follow-up, I noticed that you mentioned the use of Earth observation for addressing, for example, sustainable development goals, or to be used as a legal tool to recognized for in the assessment of certain legal compliance, like the marine status MSFT. Can you talk a little bit about this? I mean, is this a path that is going on, or is Earth observation struggling to be recognized?
We should ask people from the Commission or for the CESBIO or things like that. Just to let you know, we had Jack. She was attending our review meeting, and she said that maybe it's a forecast, maybe within 3 years, Earth observation will be integrated into the directive, either the water framework or the strategy as a recognized method for monitoring and reporting. And which is something very important, because we, in the project I've talked about, we had the feeling that there was a market, even the small players, there was a willingness to pay as long as they understood the product, okay? They trusted the product, they felt that we had confidence in the product, we were able to give some data about that, and yeah, it was rather interesting. Even though the price, the product we sold, the price was ridiculous, but it was very symbolic, I think, from a small structure, willing to pay, and during the project, having, yeah, there was a capacity building for them. I think now they know much better what are the products, and everything is connected. So, but I really hope that, yeah, Earth observation will be recognized for, yeah, in different, as a tool for different directives, and there will be a market for sure. And I think, I'm not expert about this, but a market for the different players, not only the big remote sensing companies in Europe, but the smaller one. The one leading the project, it was Water Insight. It's a small Dutch company. I mean, okay, but they have maybe a niche for them and other company like them.
Thank you very much. So you see a future there, basically. Wanda, is it your experience as well? I mean, not only at the European level, but also here in Portugal, at the connection with the users, that they are already picking up what is the value of Earth observation?
Yes, I think so. Although, you know, when you talk about water quality, the user says, oh, but we want the bacteria, the concentration of bacteria, okay, and we can't have it. But nevertheless, I agree with Laurent, that is a path that is going to, well, we'll get to that aim. We just have to be careful what we promise or what we do. And so, because Earth observation obviously doesn't do everything, but it is certainly a tool which is very important in complement with other tools. And also in the IFADO project, which is about the MSFD for deep waters, then certainly Earth observation and will be suitable for descriptors like eutrophication and, you know, all that. So certainly there's a path, and there's a science behind it already, you know. So.
Thank you very much. Now we have less than a minute, but I'll just take this last few seconds to ask Pierre, very specifically regarding you mentioned that regarding the participation of Portuguese entities in CNES, especially as suppliers, is basically non-existent. First, do you think this is, why this is true, and what would you motivate the Portuguese entities to focus on? Where do you see the biggest added value of Portuguese entities there, both public and private?
Okay, as I said before, I mean, public and private are very much welcome. So we have the main stream of activity is to produce everything. So we have organization which is really regional. So I think Portuguese people should connect with the people that are delivering producing the data in the Atlantic or elsewhere. I mean, it's very open, and see how to work together in the future. So we will, Mercator, we will open ITTs. We will open. This is open procurement. I mean, so everyone can bid. It will be done in July, and the goal is to start new operational contracts next year. So in principle, I mean, this is something that it takes time to be ready, but I think that we have already something which is quite solid, and I think partnership with Portuguese partner could be done. So it's not my responsibility. It's more the Portuguese entities that should connect with their colleagues elsewhere. And also there are some contracts that are more maybe easy to catch, that are innovative projects that we can fund just to stimulate the uptake or stimulate the science. And as I said before, we have many things to do. To be better in the green ocean, to be better in coastal, to develop further the good examples of the connection between this kind of data and coastal users, etc. And to do what we have in mind with André, which is this very good example of an operational digital twin. And it starts by developing digital tools that we can then integrate in our service. So frankly, opportunities are numerous, and you need to be connected to the other European colleagues that are already in this. And well, I know you can find the thing. So we will do our part, which is to open procurement, and I'm sure we will work all together.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think well, that's an important point. I think PT Space, the Plus Atlantic, and you directly would be a source of information. So I guess there'll be contacts available on your web pages. So for anyone who wants to get informed about the whole process.
No. I just want to add something very important. This Copernicus program and also the digital program that are different names. This is managed at the European Commission level. At the European Commission level, you have your Portuguese delegates, and the connection between you and your national representative is very important, because this is there that the strategy is decided. So the connection also with, let's say, the local players and your national delegates is very important. So this is something that has to be also said, because this is really where the strategy is done.
Thank you for that note. The NCPs, the national contact points, are indeed very important in this process. Thank you for the reminder. Colleen, I believe we close this session on the marine sector. I thank all the speakers and panelists for the interesting information and discussions. And we now move to the land session. Do we have a few minutes break? No. No? Okay, so we follow to the land session. Thank you very much. Just a hand of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move to the land session. So here we have three speakers. Again, the topic will be collaboration between Portugal, France, and what the two countries have to bring to the table and to support the development of R&D applications in this area for the land. So we start with Olivier Hagollen from CESBIO. He's speaking remotely. So Olivier is a researcher at CESBIO in France and an engineer at CNES, the National Space Agency in France, and works on temporal series of remote sensing optical and high resolution imagery. And as I said, works at CESBIO, and he works also in passive microwave and in situ measurement as support for the algorithms development. He's principal software development Mahat of detection of multi-temporal cloud and atmospheric corrections. Olivier,
yes.
Olivier, you're online. 8 minutes, please.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes? No? I have no return. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, can start.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay. So.
Yes, you can start.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So, thank you for inviting me. I will talk about the land remote sensing in France and also about CESBIO's involvement in Earth observation missions. So I'm Olivier Hagollen. I'm the team leader at CESBIO for the observation systems. So I've made something very dangerous, which is to make a map of the principal labs working in remote sensing. So of course I must have forgotten one or two. So don't give this to everyone, because I hope I won't have problems. You can see that CNES and CESBIO are located in Toulouse, and we work with all these institutes. So Toulouse is maybe you don't know, it's the second university city in France. It's the world's largest higher education institution in aerospace engineering. It's the capital of space and aeronautics. It's also 6th in the Shanghai ranking in remote sensing. So we have a lot of colleagues in all domains working with remote sensing in Toulouse. Talking about the CESBIO, the CESBIO has 3, yes? Oh. Yes, I thought I did it. Okay, so I'm coming back.
We can see you on the screen.
Okay, sorry. Autorisé. Hop.
Yeah, I can see it. Can you put it in full screen?
Yes, like that. Do you see it in full screen?
No.
No. Sorry for that.
But we can see it. You can go on with this one.
But maybe sorry. So you still can see it?
Yes.
Okay. So the CESBIO has three domains. We, of course, do in situ observation, and we have 6 permanent sites where we make measurements of the plant growth, of the water in the ground, of the fluxes. We also use a lot of remote sensing. We have proposed 4 decided space missions, and we are also working on missions proposed by overlaps. And we have also a large contribution of land surface modeling and users who make models of the surface, of the vegetation growth, etc. And also the water. We work a lot of water. We have 3 thematics which are working on natural ecosystem and climate, water, and agroecosystems. So I will focus on the missions that we have at CESBIO. The first one is the SMOS missions, which was proposed by CESBIO, by Jan Kerr. It was launched in 2009, and its aim is to observe the soil moisture for the land, and also for the ocean salinity and the polar sea ice. So it is an ESA-CNES Explorer, and it works at 40-kilometer resolution, so it's a global mission. And there we have a collaboration with Deimos, who did the level 1 processor in Portugal. We are working also on a new generation of the SMOS mission that would work at 15-kilometer resolution, so we call that SMOS HR, but it's not decided yet. Another mission which was launched in 2017, it was the Venus mission. So it was, despite of its name, it was looking at Earth, and it's a French-Israeli microsatellite. So it makes high resolution and high revisit on selected sites. The PI is Gérard de Dieu from CESBIO, and also we have a PI from Israel. And so what we are doing is images every second day with a field of view of 28 kilometers and a resolution of 5 meters. And so data are available to anyone, and they were meant to prepare Sentinel-2 or to prepare the next generation of Sentinel-2. And in 2022, we have changed the orbit of Venus, and we will start making imagery daily at 4-meter resolution on a number of sites. So there has been a call for sites, and there is one site submitted by the University of Lisbon. The name is here, I don't know how to say it. It's useful, so we aim it to be useful to prepare the next generation of Sentinel-2, which should have a better revisit and also a better resolution. Another mission that is decided and that should be launched in 2023 is the biomass mission. So it's once again an Earth Explorer is our mission. The idea there is to make a global, not a global, survey of the forest in the tropics. So we are not allowed to image with this radar. It's a P-band radar, and we are not allowed to image in Europe or in the United States because of the military limitations. But anywhere in the tropics, we can see the forest biomass. And as the P-band it's a long wavelength radar, with the P-band we can see, in fact, all the trunks, and we saturate less in biomass than the other radar bands. So that's the interest of this mission, which has a difficulty that if you want a good resolution in this band, you need to have a huge antenna. You see it on the top image, the antenna compared to satellite is really huge. So this was a complex way of working. And it should be launched in 2023. The next one is the Trishna mission. So this one was just decided last year. It's a collaboration between CNES and the Indian Space Agency. And this one will work in the thermal infrared. So we will have imagery in the thermal infrared at about 60-meter resolution with a large field of view of 33 degrees. We will have 4 bands in the thermal infrared and 6 or 7 bands in the visible and classes. So the main product will be evapotranspiration to see how much there is water consumption by the plant, and to also detect if there is a need for irrigation, and also have a classification of the irrigated crops. So the project is just starting, and there is already a science team by 100 scientists. And we are collaborating with Isabel Trigo, who is working with the Safland in Portugal for the Sky Radiant. She already joined the science team. And you can also ask to join the science team if you want by writing to the French PI, who is Jean-Louis Rougeant. A mission that is in a much early stage, it's not at all decided. It's a phase 0 mission at CNES. The PI is Julien Michel, one colleague at CESBIO. The idea is to have a high-resolution mission, which would be complementary to Sentinel-2 or Sentinel-2 new generation. That would also provide global, free, and open data, but at a 2-meter resolution with a 20-day revisit. So the idea is also to add a stereoscopic capacity to detect changes in altitude, for instance, a new building or the cutting of trees or forests. So we are currently studying 2 configurations, either 2 specific satellites with a large field of view, but expensive ones, or maybe 12 satellites with a 28-kilometer field of view, so much smaller satellites. That will be a copy of the CNES Co-3D satellites. That's a joint venture between CNES and Airbus to make DEM, the digital elevation model with satellites. So I think this mission is interesting. It's getting interest by a lot of users, and so we need support to convince the France and Europe to fund this kind of mission. Another thematic, it's almost the...
Olivier, can I ask you to wrap up? We're getting tight on time.
Yes, it's I only have 2 view graphs. The French public land data center is distributing data, so mainly data from Copernicus. So there we have 3,000 users who are downloading the data. This is the region we are processing, so the whole Western Europe, including Portugal. We have already in Portugal 12 users that already downloaded 13,000 products. So my last slide, conclusion slide. This is a very quick overview of CESBIO's observation activity. Of course, the modeling team is very interesting too. I had an animation on the right, but as I'm not in presentation mode, I can show you the level 3 product from Sentinel-2 for the region of Lisboa. We have at CESBIO a strong commitment to share data and codes. So we provide the data for free, provide software on GitHub, which are easy to access, so to make the atmospheric correction, the cloud detection, the composites, the process Sentinel-1 to detect the snow cover, to make land cover also. And so this is easy to take over and to collaborate with us on these codes, which are open source. So we have some collaboration with labs in Portugal, but of course we have a large margin for improvement and to improve this and have a lot more collaboration. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olivier. I saw that you mentioned SMOS. SMOS was one of the first missions I've worked in, and it was one of the most interesting ones and still ongoing. Okay, so now we have Mário Caetano. Mário is principal researcher at DGT, the Direção Geral Território, in Lisbon, and is actually the Sub-Director General, and is a reference in the use of Earth observation, geodesy, cartography, and geographic information systems. And he has a management aggregation at the Novo Information Management School, and a PhD and first degree in forestry engineering.
Thank you. The floor is yours. So my first words is for you, for Deimos. We are celebrating in 2021 20 years of Deimos. Deimos is a company that was very important for the development of space in Portugal, in Spain, and in the world. And we are benefiting now, Portugal is going to benefit very closely from your 2 satellites that we acquired very recently. So thank you, Deimos, and congratulations for 20 years.
Thank you.
Okay, so I go now for my presentation. So DGT, the Directorate General for Territory, is the national mapping agency. We have the responsibility to produce land cover land use maps for the continental Portugal. We have been producing this COSH, this is the National Land Cover Land Use Map. We already have 5 editions, starting 95 and ending in 2018. And this map is produced by visual interpretation of orthophotos, meaning that the analyst draws a line or polygon line around landscape units that share the same land cover or the same land use. This is from the user perspective. This is the land cover map we produce. So as you can see, there is a lot of, it's a strong simplification of the world because we just assign a class to each polygon. So we lose all the complexity. But still, land cover land use maps are the geographical thematic information most used in Portugal and in the world. And however, traditional maps, like the one you saw, the production is very expensive and very time consuming. We have long updating cycles and they do not meet all user requirements. So as I said before, there is a substantial generalization. We do not map single trees or single buildings. And also traditional maps like COSH do not capture land cover dynamics. So we need less map generalization, continuous monitoring for capturing land cover dynamics and new products. How? Through new data and new tools. So regarding data, we are benefiting for the Copernicus satellites, the Sentinels, with the high frequency of image acquisition, high spatial resolution, free access data policies. This is an image from Sentinel-2 in North Portugal. These images are acquired every 5 days with a pixel of 10 meters. So we are using now multi-temporal data sets for generating land cover land use maps. We process 1 image per year, cloud-free image per month. And so right now we have I used to say that we have the perfect combination. So we have the data from Copernicus. We have been able to build up this capacity to process satellite images to derive useful information within projects funded by ESA, by FCT, by the European Commission. So we are ready to go into the operational production of maps. And we have a purpose. So we want to work with users so that our maps can be of effective use for all the public administration. So this is why I used to say that we have the perfect combination at DGT. So we are the National Mapping Agency. We also have a research department. So we want to do now, or we are already starting operational land cover monitoring with satellite data and artificial intelligence. So we are building up the SMOS. SMOS, not the satellite, but the system. SMOS means a Sistema de Monitorização, oh, there is a spelling mistake there. Sistema de Monitorização da Ocupação do Solo, Land Cover Monitoring System, that it's going to include the traditional map, Land Cover Land Use, so we produce this map every 3 years, COSH, with 83 classes and a minimum mapping unit of 1 hectare. And we started to produce COSHIM, which is derived by Sentinel, derived from Sentinel-2, with 15 classes, and we are going to produce it every year with a pixel size of 10 meters. And we are also going to have monthly products to capture the biomass of the vegetation. So comparing these two products, the traditional map with the new map derived from satellites. So here we have the traditional map on your left, on your right side, and on the left is the orthophoto. And if we look at the area of this is a residential area, a combination of buildings and vegetation, but in COS, in the traditional map, we just assign a single class to this polygon, which is urban or discontinuous residential area. But in our new map, we will be able to capture the individual buildings and also the agriculture areas within this polygon. So this is what the map looks like, what this area looks like in our new product, COSHIM. So right now we already have 3 national land cover maps. We have COSHIM for 2018, for 2020, and we just produced these COSHIM 2020 updated at March 2021, so 3 months ago. And this map was recently distributed to all the stakeholders in the fire system of Portugal so that they can use it in this fire season. So we are also do crop mapping. We are mapping 31 crops in Portugal, and this map was recently produced also for 2020. So just to show you the importance to have to have several maps to capture the dynamics of land cover in Portugal. So this is a shrubland area in Portugal in 2015 that was burned in 2017, and in 2018 you start to see some recovery of the vegetation that goes on in August. If we look at our COSHIM products, in 2018 you can see, so this brown is shrubland, this light brown is grassland, and the gray is bare soil. So you can see that there is already some recovery of the vegetation, but the recovery is much larger in 2020. So that means that our systems are being able to capture the dynamics after the forest fires. This is another example, a clear cut in a shrubland area, probably to plant eucalyptus or pine stand. So here we have the COSHIM 2018, and here you have the gray area that depicts an area without vegetation that you can see here, probably for this forest plantation, but we cannot tell what's going to be in 2020. So I have now a slide. in order to thank also to my previous colleague, to Olivier, because it is true that we are using the TEIA images. So for generating COSHIM in Portugal, we are downloading the Sentinel-2 images from TEIA. And I would like to explain to you why we do it from TEIA and not from ESA. And the reason is here in this slide. In ESA, they use the CENTU-core. So when they do the image processing for atmospheric correction, they use the CENTU-core. And in France, in TEIA, they use the Maya software, and and there are several research papers demonstrating that the Maya software is produce images with less errors than the CENTU-core. So this is the reason why we are using the TEIA images. However, I have to confess that the download is not as fast as it is in ESA, and of course that we are afraid that if for some reason they stop to produce these images for Portugal, we have to stop our process and go back to ESA and do the pre-processing again and so on. So it's a risk, but probably Olivier is going to tell me at discussion that there is zero risk in that, and I would love to hear that. Okay, so in SMOS, this is a collaborative system. We are developing it. We have a SMOS user group where we have most important public administration entities that work with land cover land use data. They are helping us to derive the technical specifications of the maps, and they will be involved in the usability of test maps. All the products that you saw were developed by our team, by technical and scientific staff of DGT. And in summer 2021, this summer, we are going to start collaborate with academia and research centers. They were already invited. We are going to sign the contracts this summer. And hopefully we can also start to have this international cooperation, which I think maybe we can do a kickoff here with our French colleagues. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mário. Now we have our last speaker, Marine Utgé-Royom. I hope I pronounced it right. Marine has a master's in economy of development, international development from Sciences Po in Paris, and has worked in the Ministry of Foreign Office in France as a project manager, and work on freelancer in Portugal in consulting for sustainable development as well. In 2018, she joined Teselo, a company that works in addressing the environmental challenges using Earth observation and artificial intelligence. And she's now the partner and head of sustainability. I'll ask you to be as quick as possible. We're very tight on time,
sure.
So at least not to go over the 8 minutes.
Thank you, Nuno. So we are Teselo. I'm one of the co-founders and the chief strategy officer of this startup, founded in Portugal 4 years ago. We sell geospatial intelligence for sustainable goals. So in a nutshell, our mission is to help our client, public or private organizations, manage natural resources more sustainably and more efficiently through geospatial intelligence. So we created the company after out of the creation of this Copernicus satellite program, because we think that environmental change has to be monitored at very large scale and in a continuous way. So we build our value through open data. We use open satellite imagery and we augment them with artificial intelligence to extract their value. Why we decided to focus on this open data is because it offers a near real-time country-wide mapping that is precisely what our clients need. So we beneficiated from several grants from the European Space Agency and from the European Commission which allowed us to fund all the R&D phase. So a few words about the team. We are 4 co-founders. None of us are Portuguese, as you will know, but we met in Portugal, and now the team has grown, and we are now 12 people. And of course, a lot of Portuguese, but also other European countries are represented. So Rémi Charpentier, the CEO, is French, and he oversees all the strategy. He has a background in AI and cloud computing. Michael, our chief science, comes from as an environmental engineering background. He specialized in environmental science and modelization of fire risk, for example. Daniel is our chief technology officer, and he's responsible for all the GIS component of the company, and myself, as chief strategy, I oversee the sustainable new applications, partnerships, funding, and business development. Now, I think the presentation from the DGT kind of unraveled the methodology we have. So we use raw data that we directly collect from ESA, mainly Sentinel-2. We clean it, do all the atmospherical correction, and we transform it into intelligent information by running AI models that we design based on the precise information we want to track. We also add our environmental science knowledge, for example, in the moment of designing a model to understand precisely the plant behavior over time. Key capabilities. So this is a screenshot of our platform. So we deliver everything through our cloud-based platform that we have designed in the first years of the company. This is a land use map that we have created for a timber producers client in Portugal. And because we use Sentinel-2, we offer this weekly refresh at any scale, because once a model is calibrated for a given country and a given climatic region, it can scale endlessly. That makes it a very cost-effective solution compared to drone and high-resolution satellite imagery-based ways of monitoring a plantation. So we can mitigate risks, flag environmental threats, for example, pest attack in a plantation or a crop, and allows organizations to better plan their operation of vegetation management, of timber production, etc. Here I'd like to show you a specific scientific breakthrough we are very proud of, which is the super resolution model. So something we hear very often is that 10-meter resolution is not enough to actually see, to get the actionable information that, for example, a farmer or a timber producer is going to need to optimize it, well, to run its operation, but this is why we have developed this super resolution model. So on the left, this is a high resolution imagery at 0.4 meter resolution that we use to train the algorithm. In the middle, that's an ESA Sentinel-2 image, 10-meter resolution, so it's very blurry, of course. This is a forest cut around a power line. And what we do is, thanks to the high-resolution training, we output a vegetation map which is 1 meter, accurate at 1 meter resolution. This is the same technology that is used to make a face photo more accurate, for example. That is exactly the same thing, so we do that with trees and plants, not with humans. And the last photo on the right, it's a high-res resolution on top of which we have applied our forest mask, and as you see, it really fits perfectly the first one. So we get, in general, and we are trying to extend the super resolution to all of our different models. So the idea is that our clients will be able to see, to detect pest attack also at this resolution with free data. Now, our services and markets, transversally, the value proposition is we help organizations to optimize their operations, to protect the forest, the tree, the green asset that they are operating, and to comply with environmental regulation to reduce environmental risk. So, in the forestry sector, we worked with timber producers in Portugal, in Mozambique. We also work with investment funds that use forestry as a carbon offsetting asset, for example, in Indonesia. We apply the same technology in the infrastructure sector to optimize vegetation management around power line or other countrywide critical infrastructure grid. We work with ESB in Ireland, TEPCO in Japan, Ayres in Portugal. And we are also exploring other applications, such as the insurance sector for climatic risk. This is an image of vegetation management for that's the kind of project we develop with Ayres. So as you see, we provide a risk map that flags the areas where the trees are too close to the line and not complying to regulation. In the middle, a land cover map that we produce for forest, it's a forest inventory, so we can detect pest attack, compute burnt areas, logged areas, etc. And on the right, a suitability analysis to make sure that a parcel is eligible for industrial operations. And last but not least, a few words about our DNA. So we are a European company, and Portugal has really been a launching pad for us. This is all the logos of the Portuguese ecosystem that has helped us grow along the way. So EDP Ventures and Portugal Ventures invested in Teselo last year. For a total of 400k euros. Replant is one of the biggest research consortium of Portugal for an integrated management of fire risk, and we are one of the few startups that joined it. So there are a lot of similarities between France and Portugal. For example, the tech friendliness. I think the value of VC money invested per capita between Portugal and France over the last 5 years is actually similar, which is something that not everybody is aware of. And the French tech is also another example of cooperation and bringing together the two tech ecosystem, especially when it comes to, to climate change and how to tackle these problems at very large scale. So we'd like to go further, and we have a very fruitful dialogue with Portugal Space that we'd like to maintain, and we'd be very happy to, through these Portuguese institutions, also get closer to the French institutions that are a natural extension for a company like us. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marine. So let's take our speakers for the land session. So we are a bit behind schedule, so let's be quite fast in this last discussion session, but in any case, I wouldn't want to skip it. So, Marine, you already addressed one of the issues I was planning on pushing, which is what are the particular opportunities and risks between working in Portugal, or comparison between working in Portugal and France. You mentioned the advantages, the similar tech friendliness environment, but in terms of drawbacks, I mean, what you see and how do you compare both environments in Portugal and France?
Yeah. So indeed, there are a lot of benefits and advantages that we have found along the way. Working in a small country such as Portugal is clearly helpful to make the difference. So we have quickly been able to talk to very large target clients and large organizations. So the DGT knows us, for example, which I'm not sure would have been the case in France. We are working with the largest energy transporters, etc., etc. Then the drawback is Portugal has still a lesser international exposure than France, and the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, when it comes to VC money, etc., is still more modest. So it's really helpful to have an international network of our own to compensate for that lesser exposure, with the exception of Portuguese-speaking countries, where of course there is still very strong links. We are working with Mozambique, for example, and that's of course due to the pre-existing connection between some of our clients here and industries over there.
See, so basically, it's a big advantage to have an international team based in Portugal, but with international connections.
Exactly, it's the best of the two worlds.
Very good, thank you. Now, this I'll direct to Mário first. What do you see in terms of scalability of applications? I mean, for example, the use of land use, the determination of land use, for example, is it very different from country to country, or do you see it being a single algorithm to be developed for worldwide, or is it very country specific or region specific?
Thank you for the question. You know, what I've been learning in my research life is that when we talk about land cover mapping with satellite data, the results do not depend that much on the algorithm. They, in nowadays, mostly we are using supervised classifiers, and for that the algorithms need to be calibrated and need to be trained. And so, in my opinion, the quality of the maps, they depend very much on the training data. And for generating good training data, we need to involve the national experts. So this is why I think that for Portugal, and I know the global maps that have been produced and the European maps, and when I compare these maps, or when I assess their quality for continental Portugal, most of them, they have poor quality because they were generated with global models. So this is why that I think in nowadays we still depend on the local expertise to generate good maps. So the algorithms that we are using, they do not differ from the ones that the Olivier group is using for generating their land cover map, because I hope Olivier will talk about that, because they also have a land cover map for France. So the algorithms are very similar. The only thing that differs is the training data. Mm-hmm. And so this is why when your question scalability, I don't think it's that important, because we all read the same scientific journals, we are all using the same algorithms. The only difference is the local expertise.
Okay, thank you very much. To Olivier, where do you see in terms of, I mean, Mario has already addressed one of the topics of collaboration, which is the local expertise and the local support or supervision classification, for example. But where do you see the biggest, let's say, advantages in collaboration between Portugal and France specifically? Do you see in the mid to near future any areas that will be priority there, in your case? You're muted, I believe?
No, I'm not muted.
I can hear you.
No? Okay. So it's interesting because we still have at our lab the intention to make something that can work anywhere, provided we have the good information from everywhere. For instance, when we produce a land cover map in France, we have very different landscapes in France. And in fact, we make different land cover maps for the different regions, but we have the same method and we get the same type of data from everywhere. So if we could have some generalization of the types of data that are available everywhere, in France, in Portugal, in Spain, and in Holland, then we could quite well standardize the processing. Of course, the dedicated processing done in a country by the expert of the country will be a little better, but still it would be beneficial to have at the European scale good quality of products, enough good quality of products that can be refined then locally. So it's always interesting to work with colleagues from other regions to make validation and exchange in situ data, compare the processes and see which one works best and improve and keep the good idea from the collaborations. I also would like to answer to Mario that yes, we will go on producing the TEIA. We just had our review and we have the green light to continue to produce it, even to extend it to the whole Europe.
Oh, that's very good news. Thank you. Okay. Thank you all for your participation. I'd like to ask for a round of applause for all the 7 speakers, not only the ones for this session. Okay, and now we're right on top of the next session, which will be the plenary session. Let's hope that they are also a bit delayed, so we can have a quick coffee, which will be on science and new challenges in the interaction of space and climate. Thank you very much to all. Obrigado.